This video is for healthcare professionals who are already proficient with the use of the electrical impedance tomography from Draeger PulmoVista. So I wanted to look at a little case that has occurred. It's something that all respiratory therapists or clinicians using the PulmoVista must know. Just a brief, overview of how electrical impedance tomography works. You have 16 electrodes on a belt wrapped around the chest of the patient. These are sending vectors across, and different kinds of tissue impede that electrical current differently. Impedance means resistance. So the more that you are impeding a signal, the more resistance there is to that signal. So air has a very high impedance to electricity, and that way the tomography is able to interpret that as aeration. Likewise, fluid, tissue, collapsed lung tissue also have different levels of impedance. While these vectors are flying around, gathering impedance information across these vectors, the tomography technology is able to create an image that represents the distribution of ventilation dynamically for each breath tidal volume. Now, understanding that all this machine is able to interpret is that it's looking at differences in impedance across different mediums, different tissues. Like we just said, when there's a lot of fluid, the impedance is reduced, meaning it can get across that fluid very easily. When you have a patient that is on dialysis or about to start dialysis, especially obviously, well, not especially, when they're on dialysis and they're getting fluid removed, that fluid has an influence on our tomography, right? Because that patient, if, for example, the one that I'm about to show you is 3.5 liters positive, and this tracing that you see, if you look on the top, it's 3.06. There's a great improvement in impedance, a great increase in impedance. And if you look at over the regions of interest 1 to 4, you'll see that almost every region is showing more and more impedance. This gives the clinician the interpretation that we are recruiting and recruiting massively. However, when you look on the reference and control images where we're comparing 2 points, the whole time I was noticing there wasn't much visual change on my regions of interest. So this is the important thing that you must know when using PulmoVista. I suggest that it is not to be used while you're actively removing fluid. As you remove the fluid, the impedance will increase. There's less fluid, the signal's getting across less. The tomography is interpreting that as there is less edema, there's less fluid. So basically it's giving a false impression that you are recruiting. You can no longer trust this trend, this global, the total global impedance that's climbing up, and all those regions that are indicating to you that there's more ventilation, that we're recruiting. This is the tomography interpreting the changes in the fluid, because the electrodes are around the outside of the chest. They do have to go through the tissue, the adipose tissue around the chest, etc. That third spacing, that edema that somebody 3.5 liters positive would have, obviously you're taking all of that out. The tomography is only interpreting an image based on these impedances. Therefore, this is a false indication that the patient is recruiting. What we'll have to do is wait till the patient has been off dialysis and is in a steady state, and then we can redo it and find out exactly what's happening in distribution of ventilation. So guys, remember, Watch out when your patient's getting dialyzed, okay? Because if you're doing the study, at that point, it's going to look great. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.